We don't get food again.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason, Joe, and Krams are here. Finally getting this video recorded. X. It is a Patreon selection. The winner from the month of June, a band that I didn't know very much at all going into the week. In fact, I don't know if I can say for sure whether or not I've ever heard a single X song before this week. Certainly have never listened to a full album. I have heard some John Doe solo stuff before, but that's as much as I know. How about you guys?
3 songs. I knew Nausea, Los Angeles, and 4th of July. 4th of July only because it's on an episode of The Sopranos that I either looked up or Shazammed while it was happening. That's it. No albums. Brand new territory for me.
I guess I'm the ex-veteran here. I knew Los Angeles and I'm the Big Black Sun and Wild Gift. And I don't even remember how I got into them. I think it was one of those Spotify things where I was listening to like Dwight Yoakam or the Blasters or something. And it was like, here's another LA band from the same, time frame, and liked what I heard and I kept listening. So I am the veteran Xer. It doesn't happen often where I'm the only one who's heard like whole albums. So I'm gonna revel in it a little bit.
All right. Well, if you don't know what we do here, basically every week we cover a different band. Sometimes they're bands that we know and love. Sometimes, like this week, it's a band that's fairly new to us. Sometimes we love the band that we're talking about. Sometimes we don't like them much at all. So you never know quite what it's going to be. Still a big question mark on this episode. See how we're feeling about X. We rank all of the studio albums. There's 8 to rank this week. I don't think there's any really records that need to be disputed. I think it's pretty cut and dry for X. So let's get into it. Who's going to kick it off?
All right. We'll start with me, the ex-veteran. My number 8 is going to be See How We Are. This is the one without Billy Zoom, the first one without Billy Zoom. And that kind of makes a big difference to me. Without his rockabilly, bluesy, just really cool guitar sounds. Seems a little weak. You got Dave Alvin from the Blasters stepping in, but it's a little too laid back. And it seems like, this is the 5th album, I think, in a short period of time, 6th album. They're kind of running out of ideas a little bit. And the tension between X and John Doe is just like a little, I don't know, it seems to be lessening. So that they're not, the back and forth and the give and take is really what made, I think, them so cool. I think it sounds good. Exene's vocals definitely get better per album, better and better and better. But this one, the only song I think I really liked, more than liked, loved, was 4th of July, which was written by Dave Alvin. So the material that X and John Doe are bringing just isn't their best stuff. So this one was just kind of boring to me and didn't like that much. So 3 stars. It's just okay.
I think we ought to save Kram for the end this week.
Why?
I just have a feeling.
Jason's about to bust out a bunch of 1-star reviews, so
right.
End it on a high note.
We didn't even really gossip about this week. Like, I have no idea what's gonna happen. So yeah, let's let Jason go.
All right. My number 8 is Alphabet Land, the final record from 2020, reunion record, I guess, produced by Rob Schnapf, who I like a lot as a producer usually. But this record is not at all what I had hoped for from an X comeback. It's very much a return to their punk roots. It's actually, I think, maybe faster and punkier than anything they ever did. If you ask someone what type of music X plays, they might say they're a punk band. But even in the earliest days, I don't think they were ever strictly a punk band. And they always incorporated other things. But this record just seems really one-dimensional and just kind of a little bit like a straight up punk record. The songs are like their fastest songs. They're really short. They come and go. They leave virtually no impact. And to me, it feels very much like a nostalgia trip for the players, just like a chance for them to like relive the past without offering much new to the listener. Delta 88 Nightmare, I think, is horrible, really annoying. I think it's the worst song in their discography. I think Exene's vocals on this record are mixed way too loud. The remake of Cyrano de Berger's Back, I think, is good, but it's a remake of a song that already appeared once in their discography. And that being the biggest highlight on this record should tell you all you need to know. I thought this record just, I don't know, it just kind of felt like old people playing punk music. And, you know, with things that like John Doe had gone on to do in his solo career. And it seems like they had developed to a point where they were much more interesting and better writers and better players. And this record just seems to be like throwing it all away just to kind of appease fans that want to hear the early punk stuff again. And I just don't think the songs are very good or very catchy or memorable in any way. So not a very good record. 2 stars for me.
Didn't you rate the New York Dolls reunion record much higher than me or Joe?
The New York Dolls records are much better than Alphabet Land for sure.
The New York Dolls reunion is not better than Alphabet Land.
It's not even close. Yeah, it's for sure better.
I think Joe's got my back here. Yeah, so that record was old men pretending they were in high school again, for God's sakes. But my number 8 is Jesus. And I've got it at 2.5. It's close to 3, and I'll let the cat out of the bag. It's the only sub 3 score I've got. I liked all of these records except this one. I thought it was pretty good. They are so much better at songwriting than I probably would have guessed, because I didn't know much about them going in, and I kind of figured they're just going to be kind of a by the numbers punk band. But no, the songwriting is by far the biggest highlight for me of this whole catalog. That said, I do think it's weakest on this album. Although Someone's Watching, great opener. They're just so good at hooking you in with like the guitar leads and the vibes. Big Blue House is really good. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but their songs are just never that bad, even when they're not that good. Clean Like Tomorrow, really driving and full, really cool. I love the woman scorn line. And I just, I don't want to give away what I think about the other albums by kind of picking at this one, so I'll just run through this one. Some of it in the middle of this album is a little bit dull, like New Life and Country at War. Country at War also has my pet peeve, Cardinal Sin, where it really picks up in the outro and starts to do some really cool stuff instrumentally, and then it just fades out. It's one of my all-time just least favorite things in the history of listening to music. It's like you start to get going, there's some cool soloing, cool stuff, and it's just, it's like, no, let it go. Keep the tape going. There's some cool guitar work on Arms or Hostages, some heavier riffage at times. I don't think it's a bad album, but probably their least memorable to me. Everything's kind of mid-tempo and in between, and they're kind of doing some of their old tricks from the last couple albums leading up to this. So not quite what blew me away as much as some of the other stuff. So just 2.5 stars, but it gets better than that. Jesus, my number 8.
All right, Jesus is my number 7. And I agree with Grander. It starts out really well. I was really like, oh, this is going to be like one of their best albums. But I think after New Life, it kind of middles out, and then it just kind of, I don't remember much about Lettuce and Vodka, which is a cover, or Everybody, Your Baby You Lie, Drawn in the Dark. Like the ending of it really lets it down, because I think it starts great. Someone's Watching, and it's a little more alternative. This is 1993. So it's not really punk. It's not really rockabilly or blues anymore. They're sort of settled into an alternative rock, kind of maybe like a little bit less crazy version of the Pixies. I get a little bit of that kind of vibe in here. You got Tony Gilkison on guitar, and he's a much more regular kind of alternative rocker guy. He doesn't have quite as much flash or panache or identifiable sort of sound as Zoom did. So that's definitely a step down from Billy, but he's a good guitarist, just not quite as memorable. I do think Clean Like Tomorrow is great, and there's some big, like, I don't know what they are. He's doing some big chord stuff. It's kind of like moaning chord work, which is pretty cool in the background, and he's got a good lead on it. But Other than that, in Big Blue House, I think it's good. Some nice fuzz bass from John Doe on that. But the songwriting isn't quite as good. And despite Exene and John Doe's vocals being really good around this period, it's just not quite as memorable songs or, unique style. It feels like it's part of the 90s and no longer their own thing. So I have it at 3.5 stars. It's fine, but it's just not like great, and it's a little disappointing, for a band like X. It's fine. It's decent. It's good.
All right, my number 7 is Los Angeles. Probably their punkiest album, and even though it's pretty punky, like I said in the previous review, they show a lot of other influences. They don't seem concerned with keeping a pure punk aesthetic. You got a little rockabilly on Johnny Hit and Run Pauline. They cover the Doors' Soul Kitchen. You've got Manzarek's organ and synth on a number of tracks, which give the record a little texture. Especially the organ really leads to this almost kind of like goth vibe, which is pretty cool. I'm not a big fan of either Exene's or John Doe's vocals, but I do think it helps having two of them where you can get some variety and some change up and you're not just listening to one of them all the time. So I don't know. John Doe does take on a bit of a croon occasionally, which I prefer when he kind of gets into that mode of singing. I like it a lot on the track Nausea. The World's a Mess has a cool surf rock feel. I think Billy Zoom's guitar solo on the Unheard Music is cool. I don't know. It's a record that I think shows a lot of potential and there's a lot of really cool, like interesting elements, but I don't think any of the songs really do that much for me. I'm not a big fan of, the melodies or the I don't know. The songs just don't stick with me very much. So 2.5 stars for Los Angeles.
All right. My number 7, I've got Alphabet Land from 2020, the reunion record, original lineup. Doesn't really sound like they're missing a beat at all. Sounds like they're picking up right where they left off, even a little better since I've got it above Jesus. It's a great opener. I think Free is good. But at the same time, like if I'm taking my mind out of the fact that it's, 20 years later or whatever, it's still not really growing that much. Although I do think the songs are better here than they are on Jesus. I like my bands to evolve and they kind of plateau a little bit towards the end of their timeline. And then this one they come back with, and, Jason's right. It's kind of them just kind of doing, this is what our old school fans would want to do. But I do think it's good. Lyrics are on point. I think Water and Wine is awesome. It brings back that 50s rebel rocker kind of vibe. Strange Life is one of my favorites on her. That's a really good rocker. The songs themselves, compared to their best stuff on the other albums, kind of lack big moments and memorable parts. I do really like this version of Serrano de Bergerac. You get that cool sax in it. Joe likes to say of these records where there's a big gap and they come back and do a reunion album, does it need to be made? And it's a weird question to ask, but I did find myself asking it. Like, does it need to be made? No record needs to be made. You just want to make it. But this one, what kind of was the point of just kind of doing, any of these songs sound like they could be on any other album. They didn't really bring in anything new, but it is a good batch of songs. Pretty good album all the way through. And it's short and sweet to the point. Like it's kind of just a classic punk album. It's like a half hour tops. I got it at 3 stars. It's my number 7.
Okay, my number 6 is going to be Alphabet Land. I think it's a very, I'm not going to say it's like a great comeback album, but it's better than you'd expect from them. And I like the fact that they went back to the punk stuff, the whole alternative, thing that they were going for on Jesus and See How We Are. It didn't work for me. So I like that they go back. Billy Zoom comes back. He's rocking things up again with that trademark rockabilly, blues, punk, whatever sound he's doing. And I think it's great that all these songs are 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes at most. They're just running through some new material. I think the rockabilly solo on Water and Wine sounds just like classic Billy Zoom. Exene's voice, it's mature. It's not the young, she sounds older, and that's fine. She is older, but I don't think it's a bad vocal from her. And I think John Doe sounds pretty good as well. Their harmonies are great. DJ Bonebrake's drums, fantastic all over the place. And I like the way it's produced. I like the guitar tones on I Got a Fever. I love Delta 88 Nightmare. I think it's great. So fast, just a buzzsaw of punk. Feels like could be like a Los Angeles B-side or demo or something like that. I like the stuttering guitar on Star Chambered. Angel on the Road's dreamy guitar. A little rockabilly western in there. And I like that they go fast. Like, I don't want that like slow mid-tempo stuff that bands always get to when they mature and get older. Everything just slows down. The tempos get kind of, lackadaisical, and they're trying new stuff. No, this is just like classic, right back to the glory days of the early 80s for them. And it's close to 4 stars for me. I'm going to do 3.5. But I think it's a very good comeback, and I enjoyed it a lot.
All right, my number 6 is going to be Ain't Love Grand from 1985, produced by Michael Wagoner, who produced a lot of metal bands. Kind of an odd pairing. He worked with Accept, Alice Cooper, Dokken, Great White, Halloween, King's X, Megadeth, Skid Row. So interesting pairing. He's really known for his multi-amping and reamping. He's got kind of a signature sound. And I think there's some pros and cons of his production. It's probably a little too slick for X. It sounds a little dated, a little cheesy at times. But I think the pro to having him around, I think these are the best sounding vocals that they ever had. I think Doe especially sounds way better. He sounds like a pro singer, which he definitely didn't on the early records. Still not a big fan of Exene's vocals, though. The delivery, she's doing like this faux hip hop kind of thing, cadence on a lot of the record, which is really kind of lame. Love Shack, I think, is terrible. But recording wise, she does still sound good. I think the production of the vocals is fine. It's just her delivery is not great. Billy Zoom's guitar tones, I think, managed to stay intact through Wagner's production. I think he has great guitar tones, pretty much starting with the second record. And then the rest of his tenure in the band, I think his guitars sound really great. So really, I think it's just the drums and, some added synth, like on the opener, that really give it that 80s sound. And aside from that, I still think it sounds mostly like X. Burning House of Love, All or Nothing, Watch the Sun Go Down, I think are all good tunes. I've heard that they hate the production on it, and I get it, because it probably is it's a weird pairing for them and what they had been doing before. And I could see where probably their fans weren't into it at all. But I don't think you can deny that it does make the tunes a little more accessible than they would have been otherwise. There's some catchy stuff on here. I don't think it's a great album, but I don't think it's because of the production. I think it's just not a great album because the songs are just not great. So 3 stars for me.
It's also my number 6. I got it at 3 stars. My 3 stars is stronger than Jason. I think it's a good album. And I don't know if I like the slick, new kind of mainstream 80s elements. And I think you do get a touch of metal that doesn't really work with their sound. Like Burning House of Love is kind of cool, but it doesn't feel like them at all. I think it's this one song in their entire catalog that really sticks out like a sore thumb. It's like a lame hard rock pop sound. Almost sounds like Loverboy at times. Like, I don't know. It's just not really working for me. Love Shack, I don't think it's terrible at all. I think it's fine. It's kind of their classic speed. My Soul Cries Your Name is not good. I don't care for that at all. And like, usually I kind of like that kind of pop metal drum sound of the mid to late 80s, but it's not really working for me here. I like the guitar on Oh My Goodness, but it's not my favorite song. Not really sure what they're going for in the first half of this album. It's not necessarily bad. Like Around My Heart is kind of cool. I don't know, it seems insincere or awkward. However, I think the second half of this album is much better and kind of just, it's like a 4-star second half and a 2-star first half. What's Wrong with Me is pretty cool. All or Nothing, really good. Kind of bar rock almost. Like they kind of go from the 80s side to like this, I don't know, kind of like folksy bar rock kind of thing. And I think there's a really good guitar lead on it. So I like the second half a lot. Watch the Sun Go Down is a really cool, similar feel. I think these songs are actually really good. It's like 90s bar rock before it was a thing. Maybe even a little bit of cowpunk here. A little Green on Red kind of flavor. Gas Food and Lodging almost. I like I'll Stand Up For You quite a bit. Little Honey is good. So it's kind of a tale of two sides for me, and it rounds out to be a 3-star good album for me, even though I'd probably prefer just to listen to half of it. Overall, that's where I'm at. It's my number 6, Ain't Love Grand.
That's my number 5. And yeah, it's this one was tough for me. Because I really do like their first 4. And this is just like a big change, a little too much change for me. Like Jason said, Michael Wagner, who mixed master of Puppets, which is cool, produced Skid Row's debut, Dawkins' first album. But I mean, it's a pretty big step down, I think, from the creativity and uniqueness that Manzarek was able to draw out of them. And one thing I did notice, I'll Stand Up For You is like the exact same thing as Wait by White Lion, which would come out later, and Wagner would produce that. Like, it's literally the same guitar progression. It's really bizarre and like completely threw me off. I do like the song though, but it's weird for this like 80s sound to like really come out. All or Nothing sounds like it's closer to like Starship or Heart than, you know, X's punk rockabilly roots. And I like the songs here. Like I think they're all pretty good. I like Love Shack. It sounds a little bit like Red Hot Chili Peppers, so obviously Jason hates it. Burning House of Love, a little too polished for me. I think it's a good song though. I think I'll Stand Up For You, Little Honey, Supercharged, all good. It's all just a little too slick though. Like, I just want more of that rough edge stuff. But I think the vocals sound fantastic. They're definitely produced better. All of X's backing vocals, I think, are really on point. And I mean, DJ Bonebrake's drums, always fantastic. Billy Zoom probably doesn't have quite as much to do here. So I think he's held back a little bit. Little stuff is like too close to metal riffs at some points. So I don't know. I think Wagner just takes them out of their comfort zone a little bit too much. And I know they were trying to, you know, get their big breakthrough and stuff. So you get the slick 80s production in there, but it's just not on the same level as their first 4 albums. But it's pretty good. It's close to 4 stars, just because I think the band's pretty great. But I still have it at 3.5.
All right, number 5 for me is going to be See How We Are from 1987, produced by Alvin Clark. I think this is a better attempt at doing something a little more polished than the previous record. I think it's a little closer to, you know, like Joe said, their comfort zone. Still a pretty big crack in 80s snare, but I think the sound here reminds me a little more of like the Replacements than it does hair bands or 80s pop. Except maybe on the second track, you get a little bit of that 80s pop sound, but mostly kind of in Replacements mode. The first without Billy Zoom on guitar, he's replaced by Tony Gilkison, who I think his playing is a lot more anonymous, doesn't have as much character to it. The tone's not quite as good, but I think his playing is adequate. Like, he's not a bad guitar player by any means. 4th of July, I think, works really well. Good rock song, kind of like part Springsteen, part Smithereens. Hear maybe a little Social D in there as well, especially in John Doe's voice. In the past, I think the 2 singers worked pretty well, and it kept me from getting too tired of one of them. But by this point, though, I think John Doe has gotten so much better and Exene has not. So on this record and like these later records, I just wish John Doe sang everything. He's improved a lot. He sounds pretty good. And Exene just feels completely overmatched by the slicker production, just can't keep up with it. So yeah, not a big fan of her vocals. You got some Benmont Tench on here on keys. I would assume that's him on When It Rains, which very cool song that Exene's vocals kind of wreck, but I think the keyboards on that track are really cool. Better production than on its predecessor. It does miss Billy Zoom's guitar approach, though. I think as a band, they just sound a little more anonymous without him. But I think there's some okay songs here. 3 stars for See How We Are.
My number 5 is Under the Big Black Sun, and I'm up to 3.5. I think it's very good. Love John Doe's vocals here. I don't really have a problem with either of them at any point in this entire discography. I think they're both killer, and I love their dynamic. I love just going through the albums and getting like some of her, some of him. Love the opening song, Hungry Wolf. Really cool tom work on the drums. Motel Room in My Bed is really fun and rocking. Riding with Mary is cool. I don't know if they're just quite as explosive or surprising or creative as the two albums before this, but that might just be a little bit of like me listening to them in chronological order. I don't know. Come Back to Me is slightly dull, though I like the vocals a lot, and the sax part is awesome. Title track is a really cool guitar tone. He's a great player, so I also prefer Billy Zoom. Just I don't know, some of the tracks just have a little bit left to be desired. Like I still think it's really good, 3.5. Because I Do, you get those classic punk rocker with great drums. Blue Spark is cool. I absolutely adore Dancing with My Tears in My Eyes. A little slippery little lead part when he does like those like 50s esque Hawaiian luau like kind of styles. I think that sounds so good. Real Child of Hell is really cool and raucous. Closer has a really cool guitar part on it. It's really good. I don't know what it's holding me back from quite as high as the other ones, but I just think they're really good songs, and it's hard for me to like find punk acts, and if we're calling this mostly a punk act, even though like we talked about, they're not a formulaic one by any means. Their songwriting is just so good. I find a lot of really good melodies and stuff, and I think they tell good stories, and I think they hit emotions really well and all of that. So yeah, it only gets better from here, and I'm pretty impressed with my number 5, 3.5, Under the Big Black Stars. Big black hole. Big black sun. Under the big black sun.
All right. My number 4 is going to be More Fun in the New World. You get a little bit of change here. I think the first two are very much in the same vein. I think they expand a little bit on Under the Big Black Sun. And here they're getting a little, I think, away from punk. It's still, that unique brew of punk country, rockabilly, blues. But this one's a little slicker, a little softer, maybe. The edges ground down a tiny bit, not a ton, but just a little bit. However, on some things like Billy Zoom's guitar, there's some stuff on the second half where he is just incendiary, just on fire, amazing stuff. And I it's more technical, and I think the guitar might be even better, but it still has like that same soul. Like even though he's getting better, still has like controlled chaos, and he's never getting like way out of the songs or anything. Like everything's right what the song calls for, which is great. I think the rhythm section was fantastic. Doe and DJ Bonebrake, just amazing. He's such a good drummer. I loved listening to him this week and last week, and however long we've been listening to X. It's been a long time. I started listening like a month ago, and I'm still not tired of them, so that's a good thing. We're having much more fun. Has a great bass line, less rockabilly, maybe more alternative, but it's got some cool herky-jerky stops and starts in the chorus. True Love, the ripping rocker. Poor Girl, a little softer. I hear like a little Pretenders maybe creeping in on this album. Breathless, I think, is really good. I think X sings it really well. It's got like a little glammy feel to it, a little more theatricality. I get like a Meatloaf meets Blondie kind of thing going on. And Billy Zoom has an incredible solo in that. And then he's just, on fire again in Devil Doll. It's close to like a metal riff, but it's still super catchy, still very melodic. He's got some cool bluesy riffs in his solo there. Painting the Town Blues, great. Hot House, great. Has a definite cow punk feel to it. And then it closes with True Love Part 2, which is cool. It interpolates like Long Train Running and Black Betty and like a bunch of classic rock tunes into this weird kind of mashup, which is pretty cool. I think all the songs are good. It's just not quite as speedy and raucous, I guess. It's missing like a little bit of that punk, I think, that I'm really loved on the first 3 albums. So still good though. 4 stars on this, and just a really fun record.
Okay, my number 4 is Jesus from 1993, produced by Tony Berg, who is a great producer. You might know him from some of his more recent work with Phoebe Bridgers. This record was also engineered by Chad Blake, who's a big name, producer, mixing engineer. So I think the approach here is pretty cool. Not much punk left in the sound. Like you guys both mentioned, it's more of a 90s alt rock thing with a rootsy focus on songcraft here. I like Big Blue House a lot. Reminds me a lot of the song Pyro by Kings of Leon. And you can see how they kind of borrowed from this track, especially in the rhythm section. Gilkison, I think, impresses with a pretty cool solo on the track. Country at War, Into Light, pretty good song, co-written between John Doe and Gilkison. So I think Gilkison definitely making bigger contributions here on his second record with the band, fitting in, finding his role a little better. Is another really cool solo on that track as well. I love the fat opening riff on Lettuce and Vodka. I think that's really, really cool. I don't know who does the original. Do you guys know? I saw that they didn't write it, but I couldn't find another version of it. So I don't know if it's a cover or if someone else just wrote it and they did it. But I like that song a lot. I think it's one of their best sounding records, you know, along with the last record that they did with Manzarek. Those two records, I think, are their two best produced. I think the songwriting here is getting better and better. But Exene just really grating and in the way on this one. I do not care for Exene's vocals at all. She seems very amateurish, which kind of worked on the punkier stuff, but as they get more polished, it becomes glaringly obvious that she is not a very good singer. So 3 stars for Jesus.
Welcome to another episode of Jason Hates Women Singers That Don't Do Country Music. All right, my number 4. It's not true, people. Number 4, and I'm already up to 4 stars. I got 4 great albums by X. I liked this so much more than Jason. He was right to put me last. But I've got Los Angeles, which I'm going to guess is Joe's number 1. Lively punk tunes with a twist. Always appreciate the singer change-ups. Nausea is really cool. I think the songs, like I said, just are written so well, and they tell such good stories and have such good flavor and styles, and they're surprising. Like a lot of punk music, you pretty much see it coming a mile away. Not really with them. And, you know, some people are going to be mad that we keep referring to them as punk, but we are just for the sake of speaking in English right now, calling them punk. It's just all the songs have variety, song to song as you go through. None of them sound like the one before it. It's great. You get some cool organ on Nausea, which is a rad punk change-up. Dig the vocal sound on Sugar Light. Title track's really catchy and peppy. Very tuneful for like this style, but still get like that aggressive kind of piss and vinegar, dirty, kind of greasy way to them, which is cool. But it's like got more radio rock here, like a little bit more glam almost. It's like somewhere between like Ramones and New York Dolls and Cheap Trick, all kind of like wrapped into one. It's very cool. The song Los Angeles almost sounds like a very cool, like the best thing Cheap Trick's ever done. Look at Jason, so good. So I said that so much better than Cheap Trick. Just great, like late 70s rock, just cool, greasy hard rock, great driving music. Hard for me to put my finger on, but it's really cool and I really dig it. And I got it at 4 stars. Los Angeles, number 4.
My number 3 is going to be Wild Gift, which I'm surprised both of you have so high, considering it is the most punk, dirtiest, rawest one in their whole discography. So I have no idea what Jason has, why it's up there for him. It should be way down since he seems to hate punk so much. This one is a little less melodic. I think the hooks aren't quite as good on this as the first one. The mix is a little bit different. The bass, I feel like, is up a little bit. Guitar's down a little bit. A little more monotony, I think. I'm missing a little bit of that like wow factor that you get from like hearing Ray Manzarek like chip in organ, which the first time I heard LA, I was like, what? Totally blew my mind. You don't get that here. It's a little uglier, a little flatter, but the tunes are real solid, especially starting with Universal Corner. I think that really kicks it off. It's just so fast. The momentum's there. These songs just like blast through, which is great. Billy Zoom's guitar, a little less rockabilly, definitely on this one. A little, you know, I get some metal flavor on something like It's Who You Know. It's all good in this house that I call home. Just a good spunky rocker. Some Other Time, great lyrics. White Girl has a cool hard rock riff, almost like a Judas Priest album, but the punk vocals from John and X firmly take it out of the metal territory. Back to the Bass, great lyrics. I love just them ripping on the president. And When Our Love Passed Out on the Couch, sounds like an LA tune, sort of the back and forth, which is good. And I don't know, all these songs are good. I only have one of these on my top 10 songs list. Spoiler alert there. Because I just don't think they stand out as much. I think they're all good, but there's not quite as many elements where it's just like, wow, I got to write this down. I got to take note of this. But I think all the way through, extremely consistent, good stuff from them. So 4 stars.
All right. My number 3 is Under the Big Black Sun. I still have Manzarek producing, but I think this one has a bigger, fuller sound than the first 2 albums. Probably the result of them signing to a major label, getting a little bit of a bit bigger budget. The record starts out feeling a little like the debut. You got some fast, straightforward punk tunes, but then you get into a little more variety, a little bit of different stuff. You get to a track like Come Back to Me, which is a really cool ballad. It's in 6/8, I think, and Billy Zoom plays some great sax on it. It's an interesting change up for them. I think it's one of their best tracks to date, although it does once again expose Exene's limitations as a vocalist. She is extremely pitchy all the time, and it's just really tough to listen to sometimes. Dancing with Tears in My Eyes is really cool. It's got like this Tejano Tex-Mex flavored punk. The closing track, The Have-Nots, I think is a solid tune. They have these moments of being really interesting and playing with some cool, unique sounds. I think that paired with some improved production makes the highlights here really strong. All the more disappointing then that the vast majority of the tunes are fast, straightforward, and just not memorable at all. A full record of songs like Come Back to Me, Dancing with Tears in My Eyes, and The Have-Nots, you'd have a 4-star record. But as it is, still 3 stars.
All right, my number 3, I've got See How We Are, 4 stars. I think this is a great album. Pretty cool dynamic here because you get some of that like harder, tougher sound, like Jason called it, with like the Replacements crunch and that snare and all of that updated production. But the songs are kind of more mid-tempo and a little more casual and laid back. I think it's a really cool dynamic. I'm Lost is a really good tune. A lot of the punk is gone here, and they're really just going for just kind of rock. You is a really cool, pretty rocker. Almost more of like college 80s indie rock style here, like very Replacements-esque, Smithereens, all that sort of stuff. 4th of July is cool. They're just good songwriters. Simple as that. And she's a good singer. She adds a lot. It's true. I'm right about that. She's cool. She's got a cool character to her. And they execute all their songs. Songs are clean here. They're catchy. Really good guitar work on it. I love that twang and bend on In the Time It Takes, which is a really cool, energetic tune. Whole band is really hot on this album, to be honest. Anyone Can Fill Your Shoes is good. I like this steely late 80s kind of production with that snap and crunch. Love the vocal performance on See How We Are. Very beautiful track. The harmony on it rules. They sound great when they do stuff together. I like When It Rains a lot for that very reason. It's just kind of like one of their more poetic, laid back albums, and I think it's great. 3 stars for See How We Are. 4 stars, pardon me.
Scaring me there for a minute. My number two, I got Under the Big Black Sun. I'm gonna go up to 5 stars for this bad boy. I think it's phenomenal, amazing. Another 5-star record for 1982. A bountiful year for me. I like this one more than Wild Gift because there's more atmosphere. It's a little less punk, but you still got the speedy tempos and everything. But you add so much variation to the sound. I think the vocals are the best they've been. I think X's backing vocals in particular are very strong here. And I just love the way they, Doe and Cervenka, sing back and forth. I think it's great. I think she's a fine singer. Nothing too off-putting. And it's a punk album. You don't need like beautiful Adele style vocals here. It works for this kind of music perfectly. And just the way they dance around each other, they trade off and they go back and forth and they harmonize, and it's super unique. And as far as the music goes, Hungry Wolf has that sweet machine gun riff, so gnarly, just more complexity. Motel Room in My Bed's got that lively speed of their early stuff, which is good, but very tuneful. Like it's got the speed, but it's got the melodies and the tunefulness, which is great. Love Come Back to Me, pure like late 50s, early 60s. Got that like Chuck Berry flavor, a little rockabilly, and some cool horns on that one. Sounds like Soma by Smashing Pumpkins a little bit. Love Blue Spark, that harsh guitar line, those drums and that big like abrupt guitar slide is so cool. And X is doing these great icy backing vocals. Just sounds way ahead of its time to me. Love the 50s surf rock, whatever, of Dancing with Tears in My Eyes. It's a cover. And I don't know, I don't think I've ever heard the original. I tried to find some other versions of it, but nothing comes close to this one. Just super cool. And that tone on Billy Zoom's guitar is just amazing. Real Child of Hell's great. Nice blast of energy. How I Learned My Lesson has a great guitar solo. And then it culminates with the best track, maybe in the whole catalog. We'll see. The Have Nots, I think it's just fantastic. Love the lyrics, very like Springsteen-esque look at blue collar, working class citizens. And it just has one of my favorite guitar solos I've heard in a long time. Just so melodic from Billy Zoom. And just such a cool track. Absolutely love it. And yeah, 5 stars for this one. I just think it's a perfect, almost perfect album. It's not like 10 out of 10, but it's pretty close. Love every track on here.
Jason, is there a fan on you right now? Your hair is like fluttering.
Yeah, there's a fan.
What are you, a model? What are you doing?
It's like my Michael Jackson fan.
Mhm.
Yeah. My number 2 is Wild Gift from 1981. And I'm surprised Joe says that this is their most punk sounding, because I think it leans a lot more into their non-punk influences than the debut. I think there's more country and roots stuff on this, more rockabilly, more blues, more R&B. Adult Books has like an almost 50s doo-wop sort of feel to it. I think this album features easily the best guitar work in the catalog. Great guitar tones throughout, really cool parts, some scorching solos like on Universal Corner. The guitar tone on It's Who You Know sounds killer. Also has all those like little 1-bar stops where he's just like ripping over them, which is really cool. You got a similar thing on In This House That I Call Home. The guitar, especially the leads, provide so much energy, so much excitement. White Girl has a really cool riff, like you mentioned, Joe. I think it has one of the stronger vocal melodies as well. Beyond and Back, really great rockabilly tune. The guitar playing on that track is like almost Brian Setzery. Just very cool stuff from Billy Zoom. This record, though, all about the guitar for me. You know, the songs, vocals, production, and nothing else really strikes me as spectacular. So it's still only a 3-star record, but it is got some great guitar playing on it. So worth a listen. Wild Gift.
My number 2 is More Fun in the New World. And this is a fun album, and it's 4 stars. Love the drums on the opener. It's like a bit, they're more playful on here. There's some jollier disposition. It's pretty cool. There are some incendiary guitar parts abound. Just having much more fun, cool party punk style. True Love is cool. Everything on the album, like the title suggests, just lighthearted, fun, kind of quirky, playful, ripping guitar work everywhere. It's like they're taking themselves seriously still, but like enjoying it a lot. Poor Girl is really cool and joyous. I like the rhythm to it, and there's real sweetness to it that makes me smile. Make the Music Go Bang is awesome and comes out with some absolute fire on it. I love her cadence on Breathless. I Must Not Think Bad Thoughts is really cool. The bass line in the chorus is terrific. There's a few moments where he kind of shines with the bass, but overall, I'd say it's probably the least interesting part of the musicianship. Devil Doll is awesome. Guitars on Fire. I think this is their best guitar album by far. Hot House is a cool, like Southern kind of honky tonk jam. Songs are all really good, fun, lively, entertaining, and their version of kind of modified punk, just spectacular. 4 stars. My number 2, More Fun in the New World.
All right. The winner is going to be LA, city, which I was born in. I just think this is such a unique, interesting, cool sounding. Never heard anything like it. I mean, I'm not like the biggest punk guy in the world, but the way they mix in the rockabilly and the blues and the country and everything else, and they still do it at such a fast tempo. And this album's 28 minutes long. It's just like over and done in a flash, but I think every song hits. I think there's a single weak moment on it. And despite the fact that they're not great singers here, I don't think either X or John Doe, have much vocal range or chops. It works because it's punk and it's fast and it's not supposed to be, this pretty thing. It's, they're looking at like the squalor and degradation and the wretched hive of scum and villainy that was Los Angeles in the 1980s, and looking at their own, relationship and everything else and mixing it all together. And I think the lyrics are really good throughout. I love the rhythm section, especially DJ Bonebrake's drums. I think are just magnificent on here. And Billy Zoom just has some ridiculously cool parts. That like Chuck Berry intro he does on Johnny Hit and Run Pauline is so cool, and then just launches into this like disgusting song about sex and drugs and violence and murder and whatever else. It's just a really cool mix of like that bright kind of upbeat sound and these just like really squalid dark lyrics. And I think it works great. Throwing in like the cover of Soul Kitchen is genius. Ray Manzarek's organ on Nausea and the unheard music just really add this extra layer that you're not going to get in like a regular punk album. I think it just goes way beyond what you'd normally get there. Love the speed and energy of Sugar Light. Great song about heroin addiction. Just so much fun. And Billy Zoom has this like 10-second solo, but it's just totally perfect. Los Angeles is just such a ripper of a track. Love the guitar riffs. And then they have like the sort of like cute, the world's a mess, it's in my kiss. Great rockabilly swing to that one. So I think it's pretty much perfect. 5 stars, 28 minutes of just an utter punk rockabilly delight.
All right, my number 1 is More Fun in the New World, the 4th record, the last one produced by Ray Manzarek. Not a huge departure from the record before it, but I don't know, something about the tracks on these I think are a little catchier, stick in my head a little more. I think you have a lot more of John Doe and Exene singing together. At least it feels that way, or maybe it's just me noticing it being more successful here, but they're doing a lot more of singing in unison, singing in harmony. We're Having Much More Fun works pretty well with the layered vocals. True Love is fast and punky. It's got like an almost bubblegum melody to it. Billy Zoom laying down some hot guitar licks on there. I think Exene's vocals are noticeably better on this record. Probably the best vocals she ever delivered. I think she's got a little more character, and I think she's a little more in key here. And I think she gives a pretty charismatic performance on Breathless. Devil Doll is cool. A little bit of extra fuzz on the guitar. Sounds really awesome. It's got a really sick guitar solo on it. That is another song that is sung by John Doe, but has a little bit of Exene mixed underneath the entire time, which kind of fills things out pretty nicely. Hot House has that same killer guitar, but John Doe on that track out of nowhere comes through suddenly sounding like Brian Ferry, and it's awesome. He sounds so cool on that track. It's like the only track in the whole discography where he gives that type of vocal performance. I just think overall a more tuneful album. I think it's better mixed for sure. I think it captures their energy a little bit better than their previous records. I think it flirts with poppier songwriting without really changing their aesthetic too much. I think the most telling track, though, is the closer, True Love Part 2, which is almost like a Talking Heads esque type of tune where they're playing with like different rhythms and stuff. I think that kind of foreshadows the new sounds that would be to come for them, and they're kind of heading in that direction. But this one kind of hits a sweet spot where they're not really going in that direction yet, but you can kind of tell it's coming. It's getting a little poppier, a little more accessible. Pretty good record, 3.5 stars.
All right, my winner is Wild Gift. Got it at 4.5. I think it's a damn near masterpiece. And I kind of agree with Jason, kind of combating Joe's idea that this is their punkiest. I think it's kind of got a lot of new wave in it. There's some like very Talking Heads kind of stuff on here, like the song Adult Books, really quirky and cool. We're Desperate is just this phenomenal, like great degenerate anthem. The only small like critique I have, I think the recording could use a little bit more bite or oomph, but there's great playing all around. The lyrics are tremendous. There's great soloing. You get almost like some Blondie vibes on it, like especially with the opener, which also has some great bass work on it. Songwriting's just so good. It's the bread and butter. Guitar solos are great. Lots of attitude on the song Universal Corner. I love the big riff on It's Who You Know. Great little blues rock licks everywhere. So I think this is their most creative and inventive, and like all of their styles kind of coming into this really cool hybrid. I love the subversive dark element in White Girl. You almost get like early Sonic Youth kind of vibes there. Then you get like that classic big lift into the pre-chorus and chorus because they just write good songs. Rockabilly lick on Beyond and Back, really cool. When Our Love Passed Out on the Couch is just awesome and is one of the best song titles in the history of the world. Closes with the great bluesy celebratory send-off, Year One. It's awesome. I really love this start to finish. 4.5 Wild Gift is my favorite X album. What a collection of 3 different albums and 3 different perspectives. Very cool though. It's been a while since Joe and I got to gang up on Jason, so that felt good for me.
Now, there is one song you probably heard from them that you didn't realize, and it's in the movie Major League.
Which one?
That would be Wild Thing. That's their version.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Ricky Vaughn. Yeah.
Yeah, love Major League. Bob Uecker could have won an Oscar for that.
All right, everybody. So let us know what you think of X. Do you love them like Joe and Cram apparently do? Or are you closer to me? I didn't hate them. I was just kind of lukewarm on them. I thought they were fine, just not terribly exciting for me. Whatever the case may be, let us know what you think of them. Let us know how you rank their records and what you think of our lists. Also, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so, hit the bell for notifications, and make sure you check out the video description. There you will find links to all of our social media, to our website, our merch store, and our Patreon if you're interested in supporting the channel. We've got a very cool community growing there, especially on the Discord. It only costs $1 a month to get on there. A lot of cool stuff, listening parties, and all kinds of fun chat happening. So yeah, check it out. Follow the links. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.